Welcome back to Master Your Glass. I'm your host, Livio, and today I'm going to show you how to make 4 different versions of the Moscow Mule. Not only are they different in flavor, but it's also different on how they're made and how I actually added those flavors in there. So, what do you say? Let's get into it. As always, thanks for dropping your questions in the comments. Zero had a question about different variations and how to modify a Moscow Mule. Zero, I got your back. So when it's time to modify a Moscow Mule, and let me preface, this rule is for any cocktail. You have to remember that if you're gonna use the word mule, or if you're gonna use the name of the cocktail, don't modify it to the point where it really doesn't fit that category anymore. This has been a thing for hundreds of years, when as soon as we would modify a drink a little bit more, we would give it a new name. I want to keep these in the Mule family. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a basic way, the most easiest way, which is let's just modify the spirit. I'm excited to let you know that on masteryourglass.com, we've launched our Spirits 101 Academy, jam-packed with information, 10 lessons, 1 hour and 40 minutes long. Now it's already heavily discounted, but if you enter the code MYG Spirits, you'll get even a bigger discount. All right, while you're there, you can find this shirt, but let's get back to the video. So we're gonna take this glass here, or I should say this mug here, and we're gonna go ahead and just fill it with ice. You can use crushed ice, you can use cubed ice, you can use whichever you like. And to some extent, right, with the mules, unless you're serving them at a bar or there's specific rules and regulations, you can serve them in a glass too. I happen to have 4 mugs, so I'm going to serve them in the mug. In this case here, I'm basically just gonna make a bourbon mule or a whiskey mule, which by the way is made with a local whiskey, which is Frey Ranch, distilled in Fallon, Nevada, which I really like. Now typically when it comes time to make these types of drinks, I always use the formula 1 part to 2 part. So 1 ounce to 2 ounces, 2 ounces to 4 ounces, with obviously the smaller part being the spirit. In this case here, I like my mules a little lower in alcohol, and I'm using whiskey, which is a little higher in alcohol. So rather than doing the usual 2 ounces to 4 ounces, I'm gonna just do 1.5 ounces of this whiskey right in here, okay? That is the first ingredient in the mule is the spirit, or I should say one of the first. The second ingredient we're gonna put in here is fresh lime juice. And in this case here, we just want a little touch, just like that, okay? Last but not least, we're going to add the ginger beer. Now, one of the other variations, which we'll talk about later, is ginger beer versus ginger ale, versus even just using, where is it? A ginger syrup, such as this Liquid Alchemist one. In this case here, I'm gonna go ginger beer on all of them because it was the most authentic, but if I was in a pinch, I would go with one of the other options as well. So now I'm going to just top this bourboned or whiskeyed mule with the ginger beer. Give it a nice little stir, just like that. Okay. Now when it's time to garnish, you know, the lime wedge is such a useful garnish because you can use it to add more lime juice into your drink. In this case here though, I'm gonna just make a wheel because I already added the lime juice. And between you and I and the fence post, I think the wheel looks a hell of a lot better. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just float this lime wheel right on top. And I'm gonna set this mule right there. And there you have simple, easy variation number 1. Take the mule, replace the spirit with your preferred spirit. Now we also talked about another way to modify the mule is, are you using ginger ale, are you using ginger beer, or are you using a ginger syrup? In those cases, you can do many things. But what I want to talk about next is how do you flavor your mule? So a prime example of a good flavored mule is actually a drink that was created by Audrey Saunders at the Pegu Club, which is called the Gin Gin Mule. I love this drink because not only are we modifying the spirit, we're going from vodka to gin, but we're also modifying how the drink is flavored. Let me show you how to make it. I'm gonna take this glass right here, and in it, I'm gonna take a few leaves of mint, just fresh leaves of mint. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are rather big. It calls for 6. These seem like pretty big leaves, so I'm gonna just leave it just like that. Now in it, I am going to add 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. Obviously, always fresh, please. Just like that. And then to it, I'm gonna also add a 1/2 ounce, or 15 mils, of simple syrup. So now we're going to take this mint, lime, and simple and just gonna give it a gentle little muddle with the back end of my spoon, just like that. Okay, now in my tin, I'm gonna go ahead and add ice and get it to start chilling while I take my Tanqueray. What I love about it is the measurements of this cocktail. You can tell that a lot of thought was put into it because the measurement of the spirit is 1 3/4. When I read 1 3/4, that means that somebody really went out of their way to start with 1 1/2 or 2 and then realized, ooh, I need to back off or I need to put a little bit more on. So this calls for 1 3/4 ounces of Tanqueray Gin, just like that. Okay, so let me make sure I'm not missing anything. I have the Tanqueray Gin, I have the lime juice, I have the simple syrup, I have the mint. What could I be possibly missing? Well, it's the ginger beer. So we're gonna go ahead and add 1 ounce of ginger beer. What intrigues me about this drink, and honestly it's the first time I am making it, is coming from my classically trained background in Italy, putting a sparkling ingredient in the shaker was like a big no-no. Now it's only 1 ounce. Obviously this is a Boston shaker, which also holds a different style of seal than the 3-piece, which actually they would pop. And obviously Audrey Saunders knows what she's doing. I'm not really concerned, but for me, this is probably one of the first. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a shake. Okay. Alrighty, I'll set this right over here. And now, I'm going to take this mug right here, fill it also with ice. And fine strain. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Now this drink here calls for a mint top as a garnish. So let me pick a nice bunch, or even 2. It's the only mint drink of the day. So let's just patch 2 of these together, just like that. And like that. And I'm going to go ahead and put this right in there just like that. Okay. And now there we have the Gin Gin Mule. So in this variation here, obviously we replaced the spirit. We made it with gin. We completely changed how the beverage is flavored. We completely changed how the beverage is made because we went from a build to a shake. But the cool thing is obviously by calling it a Gin Gin Mule, gin being the base spirit, also gin being the ginger, and keeping it in the mule family, what we've done here is we've made it very clear that this is going to be a different style of a beverage or of a mule. So the next way we can really modify the mule in a cool way is, rather than changing just the spirit, we're not only going to change the spirit, we're going to back off a little bit the amount, and we're going to augment that with some liqueur. So let me grab this mug right here. We're going to go back to just a basic build. Okay, So this version here, I'm gonna just go ahead and go with tequila. Now my earlier version, the first version that I made with whiskey, had 1.5 ounces of whiskey in it. In this case here, I'm going to only go with 1 ounce of tequila, just like that. And so I still have room for 1/2 ounce. Technically, I have room for even more than that. But in this case here, I'm going to take that tequila and I'm going to turn it into somewhat of an orange curacao flavored version by adding 1/2 ounce of orange curacao. I'm using Marie Brizard today. And then we're going to go back to adding that little bit of lime juice that I was adding earlier. Just 1/4 here will do, like so. And then lastly, we're going to top this up with more ginger beer. Okay, nice little stir here. And in this case here, since I used a little orange curacao, just to give it a point of differentiation, I'm going to simply float a dehydrated blood orange right on top, give it a spin, and set that right there for you. Okay, so in this version here, obviously we modified by adding a little bit of liqueur. We changed the spirit. The last one I want to do is showing you how to do it similarly with a syrup. Now, when we go to the syrup version, the alcohol goes back up to your full amount. Again, my mug is small, 1.5 ounces is going to do. And so in this case here, I want to make a passion fruit version of a mule with a nice rum. So what I have here is Denizen rum. This is 80% column distilled rum blended with 20% pot distilled rum. So it's nice, aromatic, and really funky. I'm going to go to 1.5 ounces straight into my mule cup, just like that. And now, in this case here, I'm introducing a syrup version, and here I'm going to add 1 ounce of Liquid Alchemist passion fruit, give it kind of that passion fruit flavor. And there you go. Now, at this point here, a couple of things that you could do as well. These are a variation, again, adding a little spice to your mule. You can add some bitters. I have just your traditional aromatic bitters here. I have some orange bitters here. Can I add them in here? Of course. Since it's going to be passion fruit, I'm going to go more with the aromatic bitters in here just to give them a little bit more flavor. So 2 dashes are going to add a little more oomph to this version. Again, a little bit of lime juice, just 1/4 will do. Okay, and let it be known the lime juice is optional. There's a lot of versions of the Moscow Mule that don't call for it. I find it to be nice and refreshing, and I love what it adds to the drink, but it doesn't have to be there. And then last but not least, top with some ginger beer. There we go. Now, I love using the Alchemist syrup because it's really tasty, really fresh, but I also love it because they're nice and light. They don't need a big hard shake, so I'm not going to shake this cocktail, as you can see, but I am going to give it a nice little generous stir here. Okay, so this version here, we have Denizen rum, we have some Angostura bitters, and we have the traditional mule. In order to really differentiate it in this case here, why not keep the garnish different as well. Put a little cherry in there, put 2 cherries in there, put 3. There we go. Give it the same size garnish as the other ones. And now we have, boom, your passion fruit rum mule with bitters. In this case here, is this really a mule anymore? Well, as long as you know that it isn't, and as long as you explain it to whoever is going to be drinking it, you can call it whatever you want. That classic bartender in me always likes to say, hey, just give it a different name. So what am I going to call this? The Passion Ginger. Okay, how's that? But in all fairness, it is what is today a modern day variation to the mule. So let me go ahead and give these a taste and just see kind of like what I think here. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, starting with the traditional mule. Sorry, I should say the traditional mule, but made with bourbon. So traditional in the build, but bourbon version. Just yummy and delicious. What's cool about the mule is it's just always really works. It really does. That bourbon flavor, little caramel notes coming from the Frey Ranch are really working well with the ginger and the lime and the bubbles. Yeah, the Gin Gin Mule is a crank above. It's a notch above. There's more flavor going on in here. Even though there was just 1 ounce of ginger beer shaken, the ginger flavor is really, really nice because it's being pushed up by that addition of the simple syrup and the mint, which is pushing up freshness and flavor. Very, very cool. Now we will move on to the orange Curacao tequila version of the mule. Oh, that's tasty. Oh yeah. Not only are the nice peppery notes coming from the tequila, this is El Tesoro, by the way. Not only are those peppery notes really nice, but the orange Curacao is softening it up. So you have the tequila that's pushing up a little bit of flavor, but you have the orange Curacao that's kind of sitting on top of it, which is really neat how that's working out. And let's try the last one, which is the Passion, the Passion Ginger. Oh, lovely. As you would imagine, funky, tropical, very on the tiki side of things. But there you have it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give me a thumbs up, and do come back to Master Glass with me, Livio Laro, where you get expert instruction for everyday consumption.